That's right, Coop.
Hello?
Celtics, baby.
Is this Northside Plugged?
I believe it is. I believe it is Northside Plugged.
We're back, baby. How y'all doing today on this beautiful Thursday?
How's everyone doing out there? Hope everyone's having a great Thursday out here at Northside. I mean, in wherever you are watching Northside Plugged today. Thank you all for tuning in on this beautiful 6/9. Nice. Nice Thursday here in the city of Chicago. A little switch up today. G Money G Note is hitting the boards, getting a little fresh take on the boards. BossDan, that's me as always. Switching it up, being on this side of the situation for right now. I'm kind of liking this view, over here. We're just talking about it. The worst part is with my long legs, I got a metal pole. Like I have to straddle this metal pole. That's basically like right between my legs, and I'm gonna hit it like 3 or 4 times. So if you see me like wince in pain or just like slowly stop, that's because one of my knees probably slammed against this metal pole that's underneath me. But we appreciate you all for tuning in. Make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't. We're at 191 subscribers. We're 9 away from 200.
Shout out to y'all, man. That's real.
Yeah,
That's
so thank you all for tuning in. You guys really make it. You guys make this easier. I'm going to be honest. Like having people to talk about it with us and interact with us makes it all the better when. Just when we come in here and makes you just enthusiastic and optimistic about coming in and having to hear people talk about it or just see what's up with people. So I'll be watching the chat closely today while I'm off the board. So make sure to say what's up if you have any questions or if you have any comments about what we're talking about or anything you want us to talk about. Make sure you either leave a comment in the live chat because I'll be right there alongside. Or if you want to call in, of course, we'll probably be hearing from our favorite callers, Barry, Frankie, maybe Slater, maybe Quick Rick, who knows who call in today. So that number is right below the screen right now, 312-985-7834. Again, that's 312-985-7834. How are you doing, G-Money, on this Thursday?
Oh, BossDan, I'm always doing well, especially when I'm here with you over on Northside Plugged.
Absolutely. It's finally getting to that summertime shy,
Yes,
shorts wherever you go. I'm wearing shorts right now, shorts and T-shirt. I had to wear a light jacket just in case it gets colder later, but nothing like I'm such a pro shorts guy. Like as soon as it gets to a little warm, I have to wear shorts. Like pants are just too constricted. I don't know how people wear pants all the time. I just can't do it. I was one of those kids in like 4th or 5th grade that went like a week or 2 with pants, and the rest of the year I was wearing shorts. Like it was like the end of February, and I was wearing shorts to school just because I wanted to wear shorts all the time. I was one of those kids in elementary and middle school for sure.
Especially when, like you go through a whole school year and majority of the time it's cold and whatnot. So it's like once you can finally throw on those shorts, you're like, all right, bet it's starting to turn around over here. Summer vacation's right around the corner.
Absolutely. And in high school, because we had a dress code, you had to wait until like the office declared you could wear shorts. So it was always like a mini holiday at BC High whenever whoever in the student affairs department announced that we could wear shorts. Sometimes it wasn't until like late May. Sometimes it was mid-May, depending on just how hot it was. So it was always a good time once those shots, as one of the old people in the front office used to say all the time. Shots. What was his name? I can't remember his name. I'll have to ask my brother about that. But yeah, it's finally getting to that summertime shy. We got about 2 weeks till official start of summer, but it's starting to get warm. Just being outside, coming here, just makes me very happy and very excited to spend the summer here in this beautiful city. Summers here can't be beat. I'd say it to everyone who I talk to. Summers can't be beat. Summertime shy is undefeated.
For sure. No, it's 26 years here, man, and the summers are great and the winters are. We make the best of it either way. Chicago's a great.
It's all about the balance.
City, but it's the balance. But all my Chicago people know. Like you live here too long, man. I mean, you're from Boston, so you know what it is.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's just eventually that cold weather gets played out unless you're somebody that loves it. And I know plenty of people that do love the winter, but not this guy. Summertime shy is for this guy.
Oh yeah, big time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Were you gonna say something?
Make sure to follow us on all our social medias. That's one thing I forgot to say. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Make sure you follow us there to stay tuned in with all we got. And, of course, YouTube is our main bread and butter, so make sure you subscribe. Throw us a like. Make sure to throw some comments around. Send us some DMs if you want us to talk about anything specific on a given week. I know this week we were kind of pretty open to whatever was happening. We got kind of similar topics as last week, on the same vein pretty much of the finals and Obi-Wan Kenobi. There will be some other things, but we're always happy to talk what the people want to talk about. So feel free to hit us up with ideas, or I actually got an idea from one of our good friends, Patrick, the other day that I will discuss with you. I meant to discuss it before, but I'll talk with it I'll talk with you later about it.
Excellent.
About a potential idea that not. I mean, a lot of radio shows / podcasts do it, but I mean, I figured if everyone's doing it, we might as well jump in. But that's all I'll say for now.
True, or we could be like nobody else has ever done before it outside of what you're saying,
Mm-hmm.
and we could stir the pot and be our own.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But I agree with what you're saying. Before we get into the deep fun of Northside Plugged, I do want to get on a serious note real quick. So within this past week, and being that we're Northside Plugged, being in this past week, we had a tragedy in the Northside / Northside Plugged community. A good friend of myself and a lot of people in the community. His name is Latif. Unfortunately, passed away earlier this week due to gun violence. And for people who are interested, the story and his GoFundMe is out there. We'll actually put the GoFundMe in this YouTube chat so people can tap into that for his funeral service. But Latif passed away at I believe 21 years old. And personally, I didn't know Latif like super close or anything, but it was one of those relationships where you just go to the park or you go to the YMCA and you just see each other around,
Mm-hmm.
So the most vivid memories that I have of Latif are of him as a younger boy, and it was kind of crazy because as I was seeing all the posts of where he was originally missing and then eventually found that he had passed, he's a young man now, or
Mm-hmm.
he was a young man, and so I didn't recognize him at first, and then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, so words can't describe how unfortunate and tough of a situation this is, and obviously, prayers and thoughts, and I know the community that we come from, and, Rogers Park, Uptown, Northside community, we're super tight-knit, especially when it comes to horrible situations like this. So I know that as grave the circumstances are,
Mm-hmm.
I know that there's going to be strong community support around Latif's family. So I again, thoughts, prayers, and extend just all good energy towards Latif's soul and his family and friends, and I just hope that they can get through this time, because it's
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately just another example of crazy gun violence of what's going on in this city. And mind you, I don't know the full facts of what actually happened. I just know that he passed away due to gun violence.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just gonna leave it at that. But I
Mhm.
just wanted to utilize our platform to carry on Latif's legacy, and his life matters, and his life mattered, and just another case of just BS. So a youngin had to lose their life for what? And it's just I don't really have much more to say out of that.
Mhm.
I'll kind of just leave it out there for the comments and for the people, and just just unfortunately life goes on, but at the end of the day, like, it's important to keep the legacy of people alive, and it just sucks, man, because it's like these are things that aren't supposed to be happening. You know, whether it's the mass shootings. You know, I think another one happened today. You know, this is happening every day, whether it's in the streets, whether it's in the schools, whether it's college campuses, whatever. You know, grocery stores everywhere. This epidemic, pandemic, whatever. No, it's more of an epidemic in terms of our country. You know, I wouldn't say the whole. Well, in Nigeria, they had I think 50 people die due to gun violence at a church. You know, so I mean, you got to think that America is a bad influence in that front. You know, not to say that it doesn't happen anywhere else, but I can definitely see moving on in the future, us being that type of bad influence, especially with the interconnectivity of social media globally, right? So that's all I really have to say about that. Again, I just want to say rest in peace to Latif. You know, I can just picture you being a young kid aspiring to be playing basketball. I used to be playing basketball with him. I found out later on that he did photography as well, which is cool, you know. So just another product of the North Side and another creative soul, and unfortunately gone too soon, you know. So I hope the best for the family and know that they have a strong support system around them. So
yeah, thoughts and prayers with the family. I think you said it well, G Money. It's just all this senseless violence that continues to happen, and like you said, it's kind of hard to tell where it is right now. Sorry, my headphones were a little messed up. Okay. Yeah, I mean, with all the things that are happening, not just here but across the world, it's kind of hard to focus on one event because there's just so many things that happen, and it's sick, and it is an epidemic in the gun violence and how many lives we have to lose, and how all the suffering still nothing is done right. Yeah. It's crazy, and I hope we talked about it a couple weeks ago with Chris. With Chris Orange. Sorry, I was trying to think of his last name. And kind of just like harping on what we said last week, it's just there needs to be big change at the top, and if there hasn't been change now, then something drastic has to happen for them to actually do something about it, because it seems like everything that happens, or especially in the past decade, that nothing major has been made to change what's already been happening. Right. So I pray for their family and his family and everyone, all his loved ones and friends, and the whole Northside community. Thoughts and prayers are with them this week for sure, and for always.
Appreciate you, BossDan. Appreciate everybody in the comments. Appreciate Austin. Appreciate Swank. Because it's real out here, you know. And at the end of the day, we're all susceptible to it. You know, nobody's immune to it. You know, I lost. I was talking to Juliana actually yesterday. We were having a cool conversation, and we were just talking about our cousin who passed away due to gun violence during the pandemic in 2020. You know, and I got another friend, Kyle. You know. While we're doing it, R.I.P. Brandon, BJ, you know, like, that's just, you know, we all have homies, we all have people that have passed away, whether it's due to gun violence or due to, you know, other situations, whatever. Like, it's unfortunate at young ages that we, you know, this is going on at the end of the day. Whether it's the kids, the old folks, it doesn't matter. So, you know, all I can really say, and I'm not trying to dive too much more into this because I want to. You know, it's going on. We know what's going on, and you know, we're trying to just be the light and spread positivity at the end of the day, you know. Absolutely. So all I really want to say is, you know, everybody just take care of yourselves, you know, watch how you're moving out here, and, you know, be there for your peoples, take care of your peoples and all that. Just look out for one another. That's really what it comes down to, you know. Move smartly.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Make sure to check in on your peoples always.
Yeah. For sure, man. But I appreciate y'all indulging in that part. That was very.
It's needed.
Very needed. Very important. You know, RP to Latif again. In the spirit of healing and life and doing things that Latif would want, right? We can dive into these 22 NBA Finals, and as a Warriors fan, you all already know that I'm very disappointed, while Mr. BossDan over here is very pleased right now. So, BossDan, you're up 2-1 right 2-1 right now. Last time we saw each other, we were watching Game 1 live, and that was a very traumatic experience on my end.
That fourth quarter, I still can't believe we were sitting here watching that fourth quarter, and I still didn't believe it was happening when it was happening. It was unbelievable. Game 2 was a great bounce back by the Warriors, though. Steph had a great game. Draymond played well. However, I mean, he's a chaos creator, and he does a great job of that, especially when he's home. He did a great job of that in Game 2 to kind of get everyone's skin, and so the Warriors came back in Game 2, and last night's Game 3 was a heck of a four-quarter performance from Jaylen Brown, and after a shaky third, like the Warriors have been dominating the third quarter this whole series. The Celtics came out with a strong start to the fourth quarter, and that they kind of rode that beginning of the fourth quarter momentum to lead them to a victory after not fully collapsing in the second half like they did in Game 2.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel great I feel phenomenal for where the Celtics are right now.
As you should.
I mean, I was happy with a split on the road, taking the first game at home in the Garden. First time a finals game has been there in over a dozen years. Tomorrow's Game 4 is going to be monumental for the momentum shift. The way Jaylen Brown's been kind of taking over the offense over the past few games has been amazing. His energy on offense just to kind of take over when Jason Tatum hasn't had his best shooting, but he's also been getting guys wide open looks and has had close to 10 assists in almost every game this series. Mm-hmm. His ability as a playmaker has been shown a lot this series so far. With Jaylen kind of taking the lead as the guy to kind of get the offense in motion and kind of start the spark as he did at the beginning of the first quarter. He came out hot. Fourth quarter, he was a huge part of that kind of closing out shift to keep the momentum on the Celtics side at the end there. But you got to love the energy that these guys have. I mean, the craziest part about playing the Warriors, and like you don't realize it until you actually you realize it watching them play, but like having them play against your team, it's just amazing how in 2 or 3 possessions a double-digit lead can go down to like 3 or 4 points. You know what I mean?
Like that 7-point play was crazy.
That 7-point play was insane. But like they get like where they had like 8 or 9 points in like 37 seconds or something like that because there was 2 bad Celtics turnovers, 2 threes, and a dunk. Yeah. And it went from like a 14-point lead to a 6-point lead in 37 seconds. Mm. So there's always that nervousness that you have because you know that the Warriors offense can do that to you in a matter of seconds. Like nothing. Like nothing for real. So like there are times when you're just sitting there and you're just sitting there. It's like a 9-point lead, and you're like, 2 possessions, 2 Curry threes, and it's a 3-point game. Yeah. But I think the Celtics defense has been doing. I mean, you can't stop Curry. You can only hope to contain him and Thompson. I think Clay had a great game yesterday compared to the first. I mean, better.
I wouldn't call it great, but
better than the other 2 games.
It's we needed that. Yeah, we needed that. Absolutely.
Yeah. You can talk more on the Warriors' performances, and one last thing before I hand it off to G-Money about the Warriors, I want to talk about the Celtics. Is saving Robert Williams for the fourth quarter was the 3D chess move by Ime there. I think because he's not fully healthy. I mean, he's still grinding through it, but being able to save some of his best minutes for the fourth quarter when you need to basically win that quarter to win the game. You can't let his paint presence on both sides of the floor has been. There's no one that athletic on the Warriors to answer him right now. For sure. So for him to be out there for those first 6 or 7 minutes in the fourth was huge to kind of keep the momentum on the Celtics side of the floor and help them lead to a victory in Game 3.
Yeah, no, spot on, BossDan, spot on. And unfortunately, I mean, this is the thing. Like ever since, once the Celtics started turning around, right, and then especially in this playoffs, I've definitely been realistic, and I still have the 100% faith that the Warriors can come back and win this series. As you should be. I don't. As
you should have.
Am I worried? I'd be lying if I'd said I wasn't. Mm-hmm. And the thing that worries me right now is that okay, you have Game 1 and we're looking real good, and then all of a sudden, boom, let it go. But it's like, okay, they slept on Al Horford. They slept on Derek White. You know, they slept on Grant Williams in that game. They just gave it to him. They're like, okay, y'all got to beat us. And they did.
Mm-hmm.
Game 2 comes around. It's like, all right, bet. This is the Warriors. You know, well, Celtics started off hot. You know, Jaylen Brown came out firing on all cylinders. And then Jason Tatum was playing really well. And, you know, they were just doing their thing. But then, yeah, and that's home cooking, you know? Like, the Warriors came and started cooking in the second quarter, and then, boom, third quarter. I mean, it was pretty competitive, right? And up in that first half. But then third quarter, Warriors came in and did their thing and teed up, and the rest was history in that game, you know? So it was like, all right, bet. This is where we need to be. Then it's like, okay, game 3 comes, and I'm like, don't know how to feel. I know that, knock on wood, God willing, you know, all we got to do is just come out with one game in Boston, right? So it's like, okay, let's see if we can get in game 3. Hit the finesse. Couldn't hit the finesse. I think the Warriors they underestimated just the Garden, you know.
The Garden.
I think they did, and this is a different Warriors team because this is the first time we're seeing the Warriors as a veteran ball club. Not to say that they weren't in 2019 against the Raptors with KD, but at the same time, like, they were in their prime right there. You know, it was like this was the most upper echelon of basketball that you're basically gonna get.
And even the Raptors had Finals MVP Kawhi Leonard on their team.
Right.
So, like, they had some experience. Like, compared to the Celtics team has 0 Finals experience before the series.
Yeah.
So they're the clearly older veteran team in this series.
Yeah. But with that being said, you know, people are thinking, myself included, you know, it's like, oh, okay, the veteran experience is an advantage, yada, yada, yada. Yes, it is, I agree. But at the same time, it's like, especially as you're watching this series, it's like that young experience of, it's like they're experienced, but they're still so young, being Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart and Jason Tatum, and obviously Al Horford's older. But regardless, it's like they're an experienced first finals team, if that makes sense. You know, like they made it to the conference finals against LeBron James in their first, like, in Jason Tatum's rookie season, right?
Yep. So
it's like, you know, y'all were right there, and then the drop off, and then boom. Back to the game. In terms of the Warriors, I just feel like Steph is doing his thing. Clay finally came to play. Draymond is playing super inconsistent. And then, you know, same with Jordan Poole and Andrew Wiggins. You know, it's like, where are they in game 3? Defense I didn't think was terrible, but at the same time, it's just like you watch the game and the Warriors just cannot stay in front of anybody. That's what it is. It's like they get blown by every single time, and then it's basically Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown into the middle of the floor, and then starting the game, they're going to be kicking it out. You know, that's what happened. Was it game 3? They're just going inside, kicking it out, and then that humbles the Warriors' defense, and then once that's played out enough, boom, attack. You know, and then that's why you see your 1, 2, 3 starters get 25 and 5, which hasn't happened since the Lakers in their Magic Kareem days.
Since the 80s Lakers.
So yeah, man. I mean, this is a Celtics team that cannot be underestimated, and I think in terms of optimism and bouncing back for the Warriors, I think, you know, again, experience. It's all about adjustments. That's what the finals. That's what the playoffs are. It's all about adjustments. So the Warriors are gonna see and know what they did wrong. A little worried about Steph's knee situation. Not pleased with Al Horford right now. Very displeased. But it's a hustle play, so you gotta respect it. But it just sucks.
Yeah, it's kind of tough when the bodies just kind of hit the floor like that, because like there's only so much body control you have when you're trying to dive for a loose ball.
Exactly.
But yeah, the Celtics haven't lost a game this postseason after coming off a loss, so I had to feel great about them going to game 3.
Oh yeah, y'all are coming home first time in the Garden in over a decade.
Right. But I think game 4, kind of like how the Warriors responded in game 2, the Warriors are going to come out hot like they did and look to establish themselves early and often, and try to get that third quarter momentum, a big third quarter on their side. I think the first two games, their third quarter performances really kind of smacked the Celtics right in the mouth.
Yeah.
Game 3's third quarter was like it was a good smack at the start, but then the Celtics kind of worked their way back before the start of the fourth because they got themselves back the lead after giving it up.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the other ones, they kind of just like gave it up and was like, oh, what do we do?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I mean, I would be lying if I said I mean, I wasn't still scared of the Warriors. I think everyone would be stupid to say that the series is over. I don't think anyone said that because they know the experience that the Warriors have.
For sure.
That just with Steph and Clay and Draymond and all the others and their newer supporting casts compared to the teams of old, compared to the other championship teams that they've had, you still got to trust in Steve Kerr and their system that they'll figure out a way to win. And Game 4 tomorrow night is going to be a big one. It's going to be important. I think that's the. It's easy to say this now, and I feel like you can say this every game, but it's the most important game of the series. Is every game is the next game always the most important in the series? Yes, but if the Celtics go up 3-1, it's going to be a big climb for the Warriors. It's crucial. But if it goes 2-2, then it just becomes a best of 3 with the Warriors regaining home court advantage at that point. So tomorrow's matchup is going to be phenomenal. I'm very much looking forward to it. And yeah, I think just the Celtics got to just keep their defensive energy and hope that everyone can kind of stay in rhythm on offense. Because in Game 2, when you had guys like Al and Marcus not play the best on the offensive end, it leads you to struggling and getting into foul trouble. And that was a problem for the Warriors as well. It was funny. Steph got his fourth foul early in the third, still got 15 points in the quarter, and it didn't matter. And Draymond fouling out obviously wasn't helpful for the Warriors because he's a big part of their defensive energy, of course, as always, former Defensive Player of the Year. But, yeah, I think the way I just look for the Warriors to come out hot and ready Game 4, to try to punch the Celtics in the face and try to get up 15-20 so they can make it almost impossible for them to come back in that game. I wouldn't be surprised if we see the Warriors come out super hot tomorrow night in the Garden, for sure.
And that's what I wanted to say, because you had said, like, the Warriors, big third quarters, which is absolutely correct. And I'm like, man, in this Game 4, I mean, they had a fantastic first quarter in Game 1. But it's like, man, we need a good, consistent first half. I think that's what the Warriors have been lacking is – outside of that first start, and that wasn't even the whole team. That was Steph Curry just on fire.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you look at it, the Warriors have not had any good first halves. To be really honest, it's been like, okay, third quarter hits and boom, we're gonna take flight. So I think if the Warriors are able to set the tone early, quiet that, humble that Boston crowd a little bit, and just shut them up a little bit. I think that'll ease the game a little bit and slow them down. And at the end of the day, the thing is, the role, it all is going to come down to the role players and people that aren't named Steph Curry, basically, just producing, because there hasn't been consistency on that level. And I think if they get back to the Game 2 physicality and are able to come up with a lot more steals and get more transition points, the Warriors will be looking good, because in transition, nobody's stopping the Warriors, and that's the problem is the Celtics are just a little bit too big. So, when we get in those half-court sets, especially on defense, when the Celtics are on offense, they just damn near destroy us because everybody's just bigger, you know? So we'll see. Game 4 on the way.
Yeah, it's going to be a great one. Very much looking forward to it, as always. Like we said, it's crucial, and I agree with you. Like, the Warriors have to start the first half like much better than they have the first 3 games. You kind of got to take the Celtics out of it, especially being on the road. Like, if you can get those Boston fans out of the game early, then it's going to be huge for you in that, especially when you go on those third quarter runs that you have been this whole series.
For sure.
So it'll be crucial for the Warriors to get a hot start in the first half, or else it's going to be a tough uphill battle in the Garden for them if they kind of go down at halftime. They were down 8 at half, I believe, yesterday. Yeah, so I mean, they not good. Yeah, but they brought the lead back in the third. But like you said, like, you got to get that first half start to feel better about yourself in the third and the fourth.
And the thing is, going back to age, they're older. They don't have that. That's what you can kind of see throughout the whole series. It's like they can hit it, but then it just kind of stops after a while. And I think that's what happened in Game 3 is that. I'm just depressed even thinking about it. Yeah, they make that comeback. They get back up 1 point after basically the 7-point play, whatnot. But then they just get gassed out, and then all of a sudden Steph Curry's in foul trouble, and then pretty much the last couple minutes of the third quarter, Steph is out. The Celtics are able to get momentum back. They get back up 4 points, boom, 7 points, and then you get back to the fourth quarter, and you're looking at an 11-point, 12-point. You're back in the same situation basically.
Right,
so
exactly.
When you're older, it's not as easy to turn on that switch. So that's why like you said, we've been saying we got to start off strong.
Absolutely.
As a team. And ball movement. This is the last thing I want to say too is like ball movement and player movement. It's like when we get into that just Steph Curry versus everybody or Clay versus everybody, Jordan versus everybody, that's when they lose because y'all are too big. Y'all are too big, and the help defense is just crazy. I just see it right now. Everybody's wingspans are just huge on your team. So and Marcus Smart is doing fantastic on Steph Curry as it is. So, yeah. Y'all have given a challenge for sure.
Yeah, as exciting as a series as exciting of a series as we all expected.
For sure, this is living up to be one of the best ones.
So it's gonna be a great rest of the series. If I looked at it correctly, tomorrow's game 4, then I think it's Monday, then Thursday. So next week we will be here for game 6. If it gets there. I'm assuming it's gonna get there. I'm just gonna say.
I gotta knock out some wood.
I'm just gonna say right now, because then tomorrow's game 4, Monday's game 5, and then Thursday would be game 6. So we'll be back here for game 6, another live look-in show. So make sure you tune in for that, and we'll have plenty more to discuss about the finals next week as it continues to unfold. I got a curious one. I guess a different topic, same topic, different subtopic. I guess. I'm curious your thoughts. So, Twitter has been going crazy about. So Draymond has his podcast, right? Like the Draymond Green podcast, and
which I was watching a little bit. I didn't watch Game 3, but I watched Game 2. Continue.
Okay, his podcast. Okay.
Yeah.
And Andre Iguodala has theirs. So, do you think it's detrimental at all for them to immediately like the next day instead of like, I mean, I'll just throw the idea out there and we can kind of discuss it a little more because I do have thoughts. But like, do you think it's any detriment that immediately like the day like one of the first things that these guys do is after a tough loss in the finals or even like a good win in the finals is to record it for their podcast just so they can get it out to the consumers and the fans? Like, do you think that has an impact at all on not just them, but maybe like their teammates or like the locker room or just how the whole like energy of the team is? You know what I mean?
Oh, it for sure has an impact. It absolutely has an impact. And I think it goes both ways. I think
definitely does.
On an entertainment aspect and whatnot. I think it's awesome, and it's Draymond is doing good stuff overall. I mean, Draymond is just doing fantastic things in terms of the media world and whatnot. But in terms of like strategy and like NBA wise, like I was literally watching this and I'm listening to him talk and I'm like thinking exactly that. I'm like, is this a good idea? Like, is this? I don't know. So, I mean, you got to think of it on this end. At the end of the day, like, everybody's there at the game. Everybody experienced the game, right, in terms of the players and whatnot. And then everybody's going to go and watch the game anyways, right, in terms of watching film to prepare for the next game. So, like, the information is out there for everybody, basically. But I think with Draymond having the ability and choosing to basically highlight everything that he chooses to highlight, whatever it is, I think that it sheds extra light of emphasis on points that, the competition may or may not miss, So I think at the end of the day, if I were Draymond, I wouldn't do the podcast because, like, I would want to be as confidential as possible. I don't want to give the competition any reason,
right?
Any bit of what's it called, like fuel for drive, So that's kind of where I see it. And I think even when before the finals started when you guys were playing the Miami Heat. And Draymond, this was after they won, they beat the Mavericks. Draymond went on Inside the NBA, and Shaq like peer pressured him and was like, "Yo, who do you think you guys are gonna play in the finals?" And he was like, "We're gonna play Boston." Blah blah blah. And you saw this was prior to Game 5 of the Eastern Conference Finals. So then what happens in Game 6? Miami Heat won that game, right?
Yeah, because Udonis Haslem went over and was like, "Thank you, Draymond," was like saying that to the broadcast team to kind of throw in that motivation.
Exactly. So it's the same thing, and it is the same thing because Draymond has his deal with Turner, so that's why he's doing all these media things. So he's putting himself in these positions. So I do think partially it hurts, but I think overall, I don't think it has like a super big strategic like change on the game. I think it could, influence a couple points that, may have not been noticed before by you guys, by the Celtics. But I think overall, I don't think it's a huge deal. I don't think it's something where like I don't think he should stop, but at the same time, if I were in his position, I wouldn't do it. That's the best way I can answer that question.
I think I agree with you exactly the way you just worded it there. I think, like I agree with you. Like, Draymond is going to be a phenomenal personality in the media world once he's done on the basketball court.
Even now,
he does plenty of greatness, and he's a very smart athlete, and he knows what he's he always is smart with his words and knows not to say he usually knows to not say the wrong things in order to make bulletin board material for the team that he's playing. It just feels weird that like after a tough loss like that where you foul out and you don't have your best of performances, that one of the first things you do within the first 24 hours post loss is to record your podcast to kind of discuss how you lost and how it makes you feel bad. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like there should be just so much, and that's just kind of what our society is now with the media and like how everything. Players are so open, which is great that like players are so open to discussing what's going on and like being able to hear their side of the story a lot more. And I think Draymond's a big advocate for that, and he's just a big proponent of that. And I, like I just said, like his media career is going to be phenomenal, and he's going to be doing it for a long, long time. And I think like if I was his teammate, it would just rub me the wrong way. I think just like, I don't know if it necessarily like maybe Steph or Clay feel it. I don't know if like maybe some of the younger guys feel, but like just like being able to go away, like I guess, and now that I'm thinking about it as I'm speaking, being able to kind of see it, like I'm saying it's taking yourself away from the game, but it's really not, because all you're doing is talking about the game.
Exactly.
So it's not really that leaving in, like it might just rub like some of the players the wrong way and just being like, this guy's not necessarily airing out the dirty laundry, but like just kind of saying things that the teammates are kind of just like, yo, like why don't we just like keep that internal? Why don't we talk to that with each other instead of you putting it on your podcast so that everyone can hear what your thoughts are in the game, instead of just kind of telling your teammates and having to respond that way instead of kind of just talking to the media or I guess your own media outlet. Yeah.
Well, I get what you're saying. I feel like in this circumstance, I feel like, especially with a team like the Warriors, where it's championship aspirations from day one. So there's a standard that's set, and especially with Draymond Green being basically the soul of your team, I think people, if there was a conversation that needed to be had in terms of Draymond doing a podcast, I think it's already been had. And I don't know. I'm sure probably underlying maybe there's players that feel some type of way about it or whatever, but I don't know. I think on a on a larger scale, in a larger perspective, I think it's fantastic for the game. I think it's fantastic for the growth of the media, for the sport, for sports in general, because it just gives you a perspective like no other. You know, it's like
absolutely.
It's cool to listen to Stephen A. Smith, and it's cool to listen to Skip Bayless, Shannon Sharp, whoever, but there's nothing like listening to the perspective of the player, the Patrick Beverleys, the JJ Redicks, obviously the Shaqs and the Charles Barkleys. Like, those perspectives are just the truest because they are, they are what you're watching in terms of basketball. So, there's both sides of the coin either way, and give or take. And I think also, Draymond Green. And again, it's funny because I be seeing what I be seeing what goes on with Draymond in these games and whatnot, and it's funny because being a Warriors fan, I don't sweat it. There's certain areas where you're like, okay, maybe Draymond needs to chill. There's certain things where you see he's just swatting and swiping and whatever, But it's funny from the outside perspective to see how pissed people get about Draymond Green and whether it's his podcast or his actions on the court. So I feel like if Draymond wasn't doing a podcast and it was somebody else, we may not even be having this conversation.
It's a great point. That's a great point. Absolutely. I definitely agree. Just the personality of Draymond itself brings light to the situation. And that's a very good point. I definitely agree with you there.
Yeah.
That if it was Gary Payton or Andre Iguodala is doing one, but he's not playing as many minutes, so no one really says it.
See, I feel like Andre Iguodala is the perfect example to what you're trying to put. Great player, great credentials and everything, and I'll listen to that, but I'd rather listen to Draymond Green over him. And what's crazy? Similar, how they were doing detail on ESPN. I mean, R.I.P. to Kobe, man, because it's Kobe's details were fantastic, and again, it's cool to listen to other players. I know like Kevin Durant and different players do it, but there was nothing like listening to Kobe Bryant's perspective on the game, man, and that's just circling back to this. It's just there's certain players that, just do certain things or are a certain way where it's just their perspective just resonates more for whatever reason, and this is my perspective, so everyone's different, but
no, but I agree. And and as the series goes on, I guess Draymond will keep making podcasts. Props to him for sticking to his guns. He doesn't care if people don't like it or people are judgmental on him doing the podcast. He knows what he's he knows what he's trying to do, and he's very set in his ways, and you got to respect him for that. And and we'll see how he keeps going as the series goes on with the rest of the series, which is going to be an exciting series. So make sure to tune in ABC tomorrow night, 9 Eastern, 8 Central on ABC. It's going to be a great Game 4. I'm very much looking forward to it.
As am I. And y'all better get y'all Dubs energy going because we need it. We need it.
No. No, sir. No, sir.
Any final thoughts on finals, sports? Any sports, other news that you got in your...
Any sports news that I can think of? No, baseball's at a weird point right now. The Angels firing Joe Madden was wild.
Heard about that.
In the midst of their worst losing streak in franchise history. And it stinks.
Talk about your Angels getting to the playoffs and
I know,
helping
man.
Mike Trout, right?
I know, just absolutely just actually screwing him over. Yeah. And it's funny, they were on an 11 or 12 game losing streak, and then the Red Sox come to town. The Red Sox won the last 3 games, so the Red Sox have won 7 in a row. So they're it was just terrible timing. They were on a losing streak, and the Red Sox were playing hot. So Michael Wacha pitched a complete game shutout in 3 exactly, a 3-hit shutout on Monday, I think, or on Tuesday, and then he was fired that night.
Wow.
Where was that? That was Tuesday, right? Because I remember I was at work on Tuesday when that happened. So Michael Wacha pitched a complete game shutout on Monday, and then on Tuesday he got fired. So there must have been other factors leading up to that, but it was just funny to see him fired because Joe Madden has pretty much created greatness in the moments he's been. He took the Rays to a good franchise. He brought the Cubs a World Series for the first time in 108 years. You were just hoping he could do the same for the Angels, but clearly the Angels don't see that going that way.
Nope.
So they had to get rid of him. But I hope he gets a job because he is a good manager. But other than that, in baseball, the Red Sox are red hot, so that's good.
I know our White Sox are good, even middle ground team right now.
They're underperforming. What's sad to say. Our boy Tony La Russa had I'm curious, and this is funny. So today, I think this was today's game, might have been yesterday's game. He had Trey Turner, who is one of the best hitters in the league, like contact wise.
Mm-hmm.
He had Trey Turner at a 1-2 count, and he decided to intentionally walk him. 1-2. He's like, I'll just send him to first base. Next batter, Max Muncy, home run.
Boom.
So it goes from a 7-5 game to a 10-5 game.
Oh, I need a bell ring over here, bro, for that home run.
Boom.
Bell ring.
So Tony La Russa getting a little cute in a weird intentional walk scenario. If they don't make the postseason, he's got to be gone. I think it was weird bringing in a manager like that who's super old school when every other organization is going younger and player manager. That was very weird when they
try
brought
to bring in that experience.
Yeah, I get what they wanted to do, but I feel like with the roster that the White Sox have, they need like a younger, more player-friendly kind of guy.
Relatable.
And I want the White Sox to succeed. I'm really pushing for their success. I just don't think Tony La Russa is the answer right now. And also, to be fair, they as always they have been dealing with injury issues all season. Eloy can't get healthy. Luis Robert Lubob has been on and off this disabled list. I'm sorry, the injury list now. I apologize. They changed names. Their pitching staff's dealt with some injuries. They had to get rid of Keuchel because he wasn't performing. There's just been a lot of issues with the team. Moncada's been hurt. So they've had a lot of injury issues, which doesn't help. Doesn't make the manager's job any easier for sure. But you hope they can turn it around because they should be at the top of that division. I know the Twins are playing great baseball. The Guardians are playing all right. But I'm sorry, Austin, if you're still watching, I don't think the Tigers have it this year. And the Royals definitely are a couple years away from being anywhere near playoff contention. So they should be competing for a playoff spot, and I know the AL East is going to have at least one or two of those wild card spots because the Yankees are playing so well, and the Blue Jays and the Rays, and maybe my Red Sox will have something to say about it. But they should, with the roster they have, they should be in a playoff spots. To be under 500 at this point in the season in June is not a great sign for the Southsiders.
Nope. Nope. Indeed.
All right. Anything else with sports?
Yes. Our guy.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
Lucas
Williamson, the winningest player in Loyola Ramblers basketball history, has had now, I believe it is up to 9 workouts with NBA teams. 9. And there's more on the way, which is even crazier.
Yeah.
If we look at hold on, I'm trying to find the post. Please hold.
I know the Bulls were one of them.
The Bulls were one of them. What?
Lakers, I think. Were one of them.
So he's worked out with the Knicks, the Clippers, the Bulls, the Nuggets, the Kings, the Jazz, the Lakers, the Suns, the Grizzlies, the Hawks, the Bucks, the Boston Celtics, and I believe he has 2 more lined up in the next few weeks. So to see our boy getting that much buzz in this draft process is amazing and awesome, and it makes me so much more draft buzz than any of the other guys got in the past. I know Dante and Ben got invites to Bulls camp. I know Cam got invites to Bulls camps. But I don't feel like anyone got this many invites to camps. You know what I mean? He's getting a lot of looks because the league is made for guys like him who can be 3-and-D guys. One of the best defensive players of the past 2 or 3 years in college basketball. His 3-point shot is improving. It's a smooth shot that can get a lot of improvements with an NBA level training staff. The potential is there, and I think a lot of teams are seeing it. It makes me super excited that his name might actually be called on draft night. Like, I haven't really cared about the draft in the past couple of years, and especially the second round. I don't think anyone has ever really watched the second round with close intent. But I will be watching the second round with very stern eyes this year to see that name, Lucas Williamson, Loyola Chicago, pop up on the bottom of that ESPN screen. Because I think with all these workouts, there's a real good chance. And even if he doesn't get drafted, he's going to get an invite somewhere, a G League, a Summer League invite. He's going to be on a Summer League roster. I have a great feeling about it. So make sure you keep those eyes out for our boy Lucas Williamson as he continues our workouts. Lucas, we love you. As always, we support everything you do, and we know you're going to do greater things than basketball and so much great in this life as great of a human as you are. But we're excited for you to see your basketball journey continue to grow. and continue to, and hopefully one day see you in an NBA court. Because I swear, whatever team you get drafted by, or if you get to an organization, I'm going to try to get that jersey. And if you somehow get picked up by my Boston Celtics, I'm going to get that jersey's going to go like this. I'm going to get that jersey so fast.
He's getting the white, the green, the alternate,
the black, the sleeve, the old school jersey. I'm getting all those Williamson jerseys. You bet your bottom dollar. I'll go bankrupt to get all those jerseys, and I'll get you to sign one of them for me, because that'll be the coolest jersey I'll ever own. Yeah, so that's how we should end the sports talk. Thank you, G Money, for reminding me on that. Shouts out to our boy Lucas Williamson, and as always, go Blurs. Actually, the Ramblers had their summer workout start this week. Nice. It's gonna be a weird roster. We'll talk about that more as the season goes on. I mean, losing six seniors, bringing in a couple new fresh faces. It's going to be a heck of a change of a team next year. So I'm very, very much looking forward to it as we transition into the Atlantic 10 Conference.
Absolutely. And speaking of transitions, just a quick little reminder.
Transition.
If you're watching on YouTube, hit that bell by our Northside Plugged YouTube page, because you get reminders every time we go live, so you don't have to scramble and look for us every week. But if you got that bell going already, shout out to you, and shout out to everybody listening to us, watching. Shout out to everybody listening on Q4 radio. Appreciate you guys. Again, always got to shout out John, Irvin, the whole Q4 family. Appreciate you guys for doing your thing and keeping the dream alive over here at Q4 Radio.
Appreciate you all.
Absolutely. So we're over here on Northside Plug. Got BossDan, the man to my left.
Hey, yo.
It's your boy G Money, G Note. We do our sports thing, but we got a couple of nerds over here as well, and the nostalgia of the Force of Star Wars has come back upon us. So, that's BossDan in the comments.
Just me.
So we are now through 4 episodes of this new Obi-Wan Kenobi Disney Plus series. Dan and I were talking about it a little bit before we went live on air, and the one thing that BossDan said about the show that he feels is that it is underwhelming. You said underwhelming. So, opening that up, would you like to elaborate?
And I think this might just be a problem with reviving a character like Obi-Wan Kenobi
after all these years,
bringing back Ewan. Like, the hype levels have been just
sky
high, like
Skywalker high.
Like, oh, that's a good one. I had to stop for that one.
Bell ring.
It's just honestly been a little underwhelming. Like, I think, spoilers for those of you who haven't watched it.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert for Obi-Wan Kenobi, part 4. I didn't know where this show was going to go. I just didn't expect this to be I just didn't expect, like, the whole arc to be rescuing Leia from the Inquisitors. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't know what to expect. I know we were promised, like, Kenobi versus Darth. We were promised that. We were promised maybe some other cameos. But don't get me wrong, like, seeing Obi-Wan's struggles to, like, deal with where he is in his life with the Force, with his connection to Anakin, to all the people that, like, Order 66 and all that, to see his reactions to all those things and kind of how his life has kind of changed and moved on, and his, like, struggles with using the Force. I've really enjoyed that. With the whole Leia arc has just been kind of weird to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I don't hate it. And I think, like, the first episode or two, it was, like, really cool to be like, oh, there's young Leia. Like, that's really cool. Like, that's a cool way they kind of brought that connection in there. How they kind of connect, how Leia reached out to Obi-Wan in A New Hope, But I just don't. And I think I don't know if you said this or if my friend who I was texting earlier said this, but, like, it's almost kind of like a Mandalorian effect, where it's like we want, like, a small like a child to be involved as the person we want to save, or just
kidify it.
Yeah, they kidify it to, like, make it from a child's perspective for kids who are watching.
Yeah, so the new generation.
Yeah, so the new generation, and even if it's a character that we already know as Leia, like, we already know who Princess Leia is, like, it's just, I don't know, it's just kind of a weird direction. Like I said, like, it's hard to perfect a character that's already been established for decades, and kind of bring in a show where you're so stuck in between other movies and other content that you have to like form it in a certain way in order to keep canon and keep the timeline accurate with whatever. So like there are going to be bumps and things like that, and that's given with any show that's going to be in between such already big media things like the movies and this Clone Wars and all this stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I think it just had such. I think like to be fair, like the expectations were super high and everyone was super hyped as soon as this show was announced. I don't think it's necessarily like anyone individually to blame. I think it's just kind of like where the Star Wars universe is now.
Yeah.
And they've said that with the future movies, they're going away from the Skywalker saga. Like that timeline is going to be kind of left alone, at least in the movie sense. Of course, like a lot of the series they're bringing back are still going to be based on that timeline. But I am kind of excited to see them go into a new part of the galaxy far, far away. But yeah, it's just, yeah. And I'm just curious what you are thinking about that, G-Money, because and don't get me wrong, like I say, I'm underwhelmed. I'm gonna watch episode 5, part 5 and part 6 like the day they come out. I'm gonna still watch it. Like I'm not gonna boycott the series. Like I've said before, I'm a slave to the mouse. Like anything that the mouse produces, I'm gonna watch. But I believe and I trust enough in them to revive it or like just to kind of end it on a good note with parts 5 and 6, because I feel like with the series they've done so far, Boba Fett, both the seasons of The Mandalorian, they've ended all those seasons super strong.
Yeah.
With the ending couple episodes.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm not gonna boycott it all or do anything like that. I'm still gonna watch it. Because I trust Lucasfilms to kind of send it in the right direction and end it on a good note. And as well with potential rumors of a second part or a second season, I've heard they have had to change those things a little bit. Their endings, because there might be a part 2. At least that's what I've heard. So I guess we'll kind of see when all that comes about.
Yeah. No, I mean, I gotta agree with you. I mean, part of me more of me agrees with you, and then I don't know. I think there's parts of it that's underwhelming, and then I think there's parts of it that are like pretty much hitting it. You know, again, at the end of the day, like you can only hit the mark so far, right? I thought episodes 1 and 2 were cool. Like the setup was cool. I told you last week or when we were talking about it, I felt also that the Leia episode 1 with Leia threw me off at first because I didn't expect it at all, and it was exactly that. I'm like, dang, they're Disneyfying this. And yeah, it kind of threw off a weird vibe, and then it started growing on me, and like this is what thought was provoked as you were talking, bro. I was like, okay, so how in the story building process for this show, like how would they bring Vader and Kenobi back, right, together? Because it's like if the show was just centered around Obi-Wan and Tatooine, like what would bring Vader to Tatooine, right? And then it's like, okay, then the question is, how does, is he gonna link up with Luke or somehow, some way? What, So I mean, it makes sense in the aspect of trying to bring them together. You gotta have some sort of clue.
Right, that makes sense.
I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying. I'm just trying to figure out, like, formulate how would they,
what was their thought process behind everything.
Exactly. So I think bits and pieces can be underwhelming, but I think at the same time, like, they're setting it up. We still got 2 more episodes. I'm hoping that they're longer episodes because I feel like
absolutely agree 100%.
Episode 4 was a little short. So I'm hoping that for a 5 and 6. And again, like now there's talk that there may be a season 2, which on another topic, I don't know if I want a season 2.
Right.
Like at first I was like, dang, maybe I was thinking is 6 episodes enough? But now that we're in it, I'm like, I wouldn't mind if they made it like 8 episodes, just one season type of thing or something like that. Extend it a little bit more. But yeah, the one thing that I can say that I want more of is I do want more Hayden Christensen. And this is the thing. I'm hearing a lot of people saying like, oh, like I want more flashbacks. I want more Hayden Christensen and Obi-Wan flashbacks, blah, blah, blah. For me personally, I wasn't even thinking like they would go there for whatever reason. You know, I thought this is just going to be focusing pretty much on what they're focusing on more. You know, I thought maybe at this point we may see a little more Darth Vader, but at the same time, I didn't expect us to get episode 3 so quick.
Right.
You know, I didn't expect, okay, boom, they're already getting to it, you know, real quick. I did not expect that. So that's what kind of gives me faith in the Force and faith in the storytelling of it. And I feel like there's still a lot to tell. And I feel like episode 5 is going to be one of those big ones where it's like, okay, boom, you know, and I'm anticipating in episode 5, again, spoilers, we don't know if this is true or not. This is just seeing what's up. But I feel like Reva and Obi-Wan are going to have their spout, and Reva's truth will come about. Well, I don't know. I feel like she's an important character. They may save her for episode 6, but like a last minute turn or something like that, you know, who knows? But I don't know, man. There's a lot of speculation of what could go on, you know.
Yeah, longer episodes. I think I agree with you 100% there. I was a little. I think that's what also leads me to be a little underwhelmed, is that just how short some of the episodes have been.
We've got a caller over here on Northside Plugged. Let's answer that first. Yo, caller, you're on Northside Plugged. What it do?
Hey, how's it going? I'm enjoying the show tonight. I'm also watching on YouTube, and I want you to know you guys are confusing me with switching chairs.
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate it.
I wasn't ready for all that.
I'm glad someone noticed. Thanks for tuning in. What's going on? How you doing?
Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm enjoying the sports and nerd talk. I'm a big nerd myself. I had a question about. I'm enjoying the Obi-Wan Kenobi stuff, and I had a couple questions for you guys. There was a few things, not to be a true hater, since I'm starting by saying that I'm prefacing and saying that I'm enjoying it. What number one, I don't understand why this child is supposed to be 10 years old and she looks like she's 4. Also, the graphics come and go as far as I'm concerned with being good and terrible. And I'm kind of confused as to how that works when you're talking about a group that's creating this, that's done such amazing stuff over time.
Right.
And the last little point that I'd love to hear you guys talk about is what's going on with our culture right now. Not to get too deep, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. I know you guys can get deep with this kind of stuff. Why is it that we keep going back in time with all these episodes? Like, I mean, when you talk about the different stories that we've done over the years, whether it's Lord of the Rings or whether it's the Harry Potters or whether it's, all these different, things that have made so much money and been so creative, even Star Trek for the Trekkies out there, they went back in time and decided to reboot the whole thing with different, with different characters. It's the same characters, but just different actors. And now we're doing the same thing with Star Trek. Is creativity, is it languishing in our times, or why is it that we can't move the story forward? Because I'm interested to see where the story goes from here. I already know the story. I watched it with my parents when I was a kid.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
sure.
Where can we take this from here as opposed to going back in time?
Absolutely.
Like I said, I'm just throwing a lot at you, but I just wanted to get it all out and hear what y'all had to say.
I appreciate that. To start first, with Leia, she does look like calling her 9 or 10 does seem like a bit of a stretch. I definitely agree with you there. And I wanted to actually bring that up about Leia and like how there's only so much action you can do when like Kenobi has to bring this 10-year-old around safely around this Imperial base. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like he has to like protect her while also like doing his moves, and like there's only so much action that you can do with her. So I definitely agree. Like that's kind of not like kind of affecting it a little bit of seeing more action from Kenobi, but his skills have got kind of revamped as the episodes have gone on. Like you've seen like that the battle in episode 3, like he didn't have any touch, whereas this episode you could see like he was kind of getting some of those skills and feeling the Force back a little more. I can definitely agree with you there. The terms of the quality, it's kind of been a little weird at times. Like some shots look great and some shots look I don't know if that's just based on set design or or what they're trying to do.
TV budget versus movie budget.
But I mean, it's Disney at the end of the day. Like they don't really budget's not an issue. It shouldn't be an issue.
It shouldn't be an issue.
Right.
Exactly. It shouldn't be
but I like that third point. I want to get into that more, but I want you to say any thoughts on the first two before we go into the third point, because I have a lot to say about that third point.
Yeah, no, I pretty much agree with you. I feel like with Leia, it's the Star Wars up to this point has a weird track record in terms of like timing with their character selection, and you look at Uncle Owen and Alec Guinness's Obi-Wan, compared to where he is now with Ewan. So I don't know. I feel like it just kind of fits the mold of oddness in terms of casting on that aspect. What was the second point? Oh, the graphics.
Yeah, the graphics and the quality.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Dan. I would say overall that maybe budget, but I don't think it's budget, but I think at the same time it's the choices that are being made with the budget and caring or not. So it's strange. But on the third that we can kind of share on this third topic. I mean I think we've talked about this before on Northside Plugged. I think 100%, just within the past 10, 12 years, we've been living in this era of remakes, basically.
Nostalgia.
Nostalgia, the Lion Kings and all the Disney and everything that was just said. I mean, I think that in terms of social norm, I think that a lot of people would rather get on board. It kind of goes with like NBA super teams, right? Rather than starting from scratch and building your own from the ground up, people rather just hop on the Marvel ship or the Star Wars ship and just go all in that or something that's already been done, And I think we live in an age now where now more than, I don't know, people are intimidated to step out of the box and try something new because they're afraid of failure. They're afraid of, especially now with after the pandemic and how much movies have changed and how we've seen within the past couple of years. Like really the only big box office ticket getters are the Marvel movies or Star Wars or whatever. Not to say that other movies aren't doing well, but it's just like people now are really only going to the theaters to like see these big box office movies rather than kind of casually going to the theaters and seeing everything everywhere all at once or something else like that. And we talked about it last week because we found out we both had seen Everything Everywhere All at Once, and we both agreed that was just like such a refreshing experience to watch a movie and come out of a movie and be like, this is just brand new characters. Everything is just fresh, So I think we'll see. My last point, I'll pass it to Dan. I think that I think as our millennials / Gen Z, as we continue to grow and become more prominent, in just society in general and continue to make more decisions, I think we'll start to see that creativity come back. I have faith in our generation in that aspect of bringing alive new ideas and telling a new story, as you say. So what do you think, BossDan?
No, I definitely agree, and then I think that there's just such a familiarity with a lot of these worlds, like the Harry Potters or the Star Treks or the Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings is getting a new prequel series on Amazon. There's just so much familiarity with that, and people and like companies like Amazon and Disney and Netflix know that people will those properties, those IPs will do numbers. So it's kind of just like safely being like, oh, if we make this Lord of the Rings series, people are going to watch it because of Lord of the Rings. If we make this Obi-Wan Kenobi series, people are going to watch it because it's Obi-Wan Kenobi. If we make this the new Star Trek, the Trekkies will come out and watch that stuff because they know the fan bases are loyal enough and familiar enough with those names, with those characters, with those storylines that it's safer than going out on a limb and trying to get a fresh new script on a new storyline. And Hollywood's kind of running out of ideas. There's a lot of remakes, a lot of kind of like retooling, if you will, of ideas and IPs to kind of create these stories. So they're with all the streaming now, where there's so much content that needs to be created for some of these companies, like they'll kind of take anything they can get, whether it is remaking these familiar characters or kind of reviving all these old stories.
It's all a money grab.
Well, the last thing, I'll let you guys go. I just wanted to take it full circle back to sports. I mean, do you see sports making that same revolution to where we might go back in time? I mean, the UFC came back. I mean, the UFC was basically boxing on steroids 25 years ago or so, and it was hard pressed to get that on TV. Finally, it went mainstream, and ESPN Plus is taking it, and it's still doing great, but it's kind of waning a little bit. But I mean, do you see? I mean, right now, and you talked about the finals a lot. Like there's been a little bit of talk lately about the physical nature of the NBA. Is there something that's going to happen with sports where we go back in time and say, you know what? I know violence is going to sell, so let's start pumping up the violence again, and getting boxing back going, getting some of these older sports that we know that we've sold in the past. Or we're going to try to get that stuff revived. Or do you maybe even see, one of the last times I heard us talking about sports, I remember talking about sports that were kind of failing in this country. Are there some new sports that you guys see on the horizon that might be coming out that might be like a new idea, a new take on something that might take something to a next level that's a little bit different?
Yeah, that's a great question. And as always, history does repeat itself, whether that be sports or life in general. Like with I don't know if you've seen this, G, or the caller. There's been this new thing called fan-controlled football, which basically like the fans can vote on what kind of play. It's like 7-on-7 fans can kind of vote on what plays the team should run on offense to kind of like dictate it. So that's kind of a new take on football. That's one of them. Like I think lacrosse has been huge, a growing sport in the United States as well. I think soccer also is growing in the United States with more MLS teams and more fans going to those games. Soccer will be growing. But I definitely think with like your major sports like your baseball, football, basketball, hockey, there is that sort of repetitive like going back to the golden age of basketball where it's like a little more this series has been very physical, which might remind a lot of people of those 80s and 90s series that got bodies slamming on the floor all the time and things like that. And I forget where I was going to go with that point, but where was I going with that point? I forget. But in baseball as well, with a lot of the ways that like they're trying to personalize the players and make them more interesting in them on their own has created a little bit of a stir when pitchers hit players, and then there's like hotheads who just want to fight for fighting's sake and all that stuff. In football, even though football is growing where it's continuing to be a pass-heavy league, there are still a lot of running backs who are dominating out there, kind of like the old school. You don't see teams running with a fullback and a running back a whole lot, like tight T or I formations. You don't see a lot of those, but there's still an emphasis on the running. So I definitely agree that there are some sports that are they got to adapt to the times and kind of move on, and sometimes to go forward you got to go backwards, and that's looking back at what you've done in the past to kind of successfully move forward. Can baseball do that with maybe moving the mound back a couple feet? Maybe could they do that with trying to make, I don't know what else can be done, but there's definitely some good coming from kind of looking back on yourself and seeing what you did in the past to kind of improve and kind of trying to move yourself forward from there. Yeah,
and I think two more things to add. One, in terms of the innovation aspect, I think esports are another thing that's
esports
really taking prominence.
Huge.
For sure, in pretty much any sport, right? And people are seeing a lot of money in that, and it's crazy to see like the I'm a big basketball head, so seeing all those NBA 2K leagues, I'm like, dang, bro, had I known and I could have just gone hard in that, oh my, it would have been over with, but yeah. And then number two, I feel like within any sport, whether it be a major sport like basketball or football or baseball, or I don't want to say small sport, or just in terms of perception, sports like tennis or lacrosse or something like that. Any sport, really. I think my point being is, I think it just takes that one like iconic figure, So first person people that comes to my head is within tennis, right? You got the Williams sisters. I mean, before, how many people are? Of course, you have a lot of people watching tennis, but on a global scale, before the Nadals and the Federers and the whatever earlier whatever, like my point being is the icons. And I feel like maybe in the next 10, 15 years, there might be like just a super iconic lacrosse player or a super iconic esports player, a super iconic volleyball player. Like, who knows, like, I think all it really takes is that one iconic person to really propel a sport, and you even look at somebody like Steph Curry where, he just flipped the game into a whole new thing, into something that nobody could have imagined 10 or 15 years ago, so.
Two guys also in that same vein, Michael Phelps and Usain Bolt.
For sure.
Are two guys I think of that kind of brought those sports back to the forefront where like the people cared about them, and there was plenty of people that watched those sports. But then when those two athletes who are generational and like set records came and brought it to like, there was a big public interest in those sports. And like, even I'll pay more attention to swimming now because of the impact Michael Phelps had. And like, you get excited for those track and field events because of Usain Bolt. So I definitely agree with you there. That like a monumental figure can kind of push forward the growth of their sport.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Well, I'm gonna get off the line. Let you guys keep doing your thing. You guys are awesome. I'm gonna keep listening. But BossDan, we got to get you a new water bottle, a Northside Plugged water bottle.
Oh, I like it. Yes, sir.
What's wrong with my Gatorade bottle? This one's cold. It keeps the drinks cold. Hey, watch yourself, man. This is a nice water bottle.
Hey, well, we appreciate the commentary, the questions. Appreciate you calling. And,
great questions. Thank you for calling in. We appreciate you.
Bye-bye.
All right, thanks, you so much. Those are great questions. Thank you to the caller for calling in there. Those were along with the topic, and those are actually great. I definitely, man, that's a good point about the growth of the sports, though. With and it kind of ties into our next topic about classic records and modern media with his question about the nostalgia in the new movies. You know what I mean? Like the new Top Gun, like bringing back that 80s, 90s movie into a modern setting with Tom Cruise, Maverick still in there.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of bringing that back and hitting on things that people will love and that will sell and that people will go to the box office to see.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, man, at the end of the day, it really, in terms of the topic of classic records and modern media, I don't know, man. I think with music, it's just a testament of the right music can last forever. Like real, genuine music, just timeless music, it can last forever. And sometimes it's better now than it was back then. And why I had even kind of brought this up to Dan in the first place before the show was a big topic of conversation right now is Stranger Things, right? And I'm not super big into Stranger Things, but I caught some of this new season 4, and in one of the episodes, the big episode that everybody's talking about is I don't even know the characters to give context, but basically running up that hill by Kate Bush is used in that scene, and it's a very cool dramatic scene, and it just like very much encapsulates the vibe. Mm-hmm. And it's crazy just like in my own perspective to relate with. I used to always just be hearing all these classics, this music on my way to school and on my way home with my mom, because she'd be playing the radio. She'll be listening to basically classic rock, and like channels like The Drive and stuff like that. So any and everything that you're going to hear on the radio of any music, like you're hearing. So hearing Running Up That Hill, I'm like, I knew the song, but I never knew the name really, but it was one of those things I was like, I always wanted to know the name. So when I saw this, I'm like, yo, that's what's up, and then it's cool because I feel like the new takes with whether it's the show or whatever, like these shows are able to make the music just even better. They do it justice within the story. Mm-hmm. And one thing that I can relate to a little bit more, because I saw the series, both seasons up to this point, is Euphoria. And I know you have an example too, and I'll pass that to you, but I just want to say in terms of like Euphoria, same concept. Euphoria has brought in all different types of genres of music to like underrated, like just new artists to older, just classical, just any type of music really. And they just, the timing of using that music plus the original score that's being created, it's awesome to see just a timeless vibe being created, you know, and you can go on any DSP, whether it's Apple Music or Spotify, Tidal, whatever, you know, and you can search up your favorite TV shows or whatever, and it's going to have the scores, and it's going to have the playlist of all the different music that was used. So I think it's a great utilization of the new streaming platforms, you know, because they know that the new generations are going to be able to are going to watch these shows, and then right after you're going to want to listen to the music.
Oh, absolutely. And it's so easy for them to, and it's so easy now to listen to those new music because of the DSPs.
Absolutely.
That you can immediately look up a song and listen to it on repeat for hours if you really like the song, which helps drive up those streaming numbers, like I'm sure. I love movies, and I think it's clear that I'm a movie person. I think over the years people have come to know that. I think one of my favorite parts about movies, or when I watch movies, one of the things I always notice the most is the soundtrack and how certain songs are used in certain contexts. Like if people who know me know that, like, whenever I hear a song, sometimes the first thing I'll think of is where I heard this song in a movie. Like every time I hear "Fortunate Son" by Creedence Clearwater Revival, all I can think of is the scene in Vietnam in Forrest Gump where the choppers are flying in. You know, like there's so many songs that like that for me that like I can picture the song being played in a movie, what part it's playing in, and things like that. And I don't know if that's just who I am or if like people actually do that, but like there are some songs where like, and people know I do this all the time, where I hear a song, I'm like, oh, like this is from this movie, and they're like, no, like this is a song by this band, like that's from this album, and I'm like, no, it's from this movie, and they're like, no, it's from this band. And one of the prime examples, I think, when G brought up this topic, I haven't seen the Stranger Things season 4 yet. I'm planning on watching it soon. The first thing I thought of when I thought of like classic records in the modern media is Guardians of the Galaxy. I think Hooked on a Feeling by Blue Suede, like Ooga Chaka, Ooga Ooga, and like Come and Get Your Love by Redbone, two examples of the great soundtrack. James Gunn did a phenomenal job putting that soundtrack together. But those are two that I immediately think of when I'm like, these records that had their time when they were first released kind of died out, and then this movie kind of brought them back to the forefront as jams. And like I listen to those songs frequently now because of hearing them in things like Guardians of the Galaxy. It reminds you of that era of music that they're referencing in there. Not just the songs that are on there, but like all the records of that time kind of brings that almost nostalgia that we were just talking about with the shows.
For sure.
Like thinking of the time where the music of that era was like what it was in that time, and like the different artists of that era can kind of bring you to that front.
Yeah. It's like the older generations can appreciate the music that they grew up with, you know. They can watch a show and have no idea what's going on, and then all of a sudden here running up that hill and be like, whoa, like, you know, this song had a major impact on my high school days or whatever, you know. So yeah, excuse me. Yeah, it's super cool to see how generations are coming together these days. But hey, man, you got to have the budget to get the clearances on all of those songs, man.
Very, very true.
You know,
that's the one part about some of these is that the cost for getting some of these records on your media and your shows or your TV or your movies can be a lot.
Oh yeah,
which is crazy. So I definitely can see how that's a. Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Dan's getting sleepy.
I'm not even that tired.
You're losing out on oxygen.
Yeah, I guess I gotta start breathing more, I guess. Yeah, that's a big part. But sometimes those movies know that like it's worth it to spend that money because then that'll associate with the movie or whatever. Yeah, and Ped's commenting, songs from Remember the Titans will always seem like they came from that movie. And see, like that's exactly what I mean. There are some songs, like whenever I hear Tequila, I think of the Sandlot scene. Whenever I hear Wipeout, I think of Sandlot. Whenever I hear In the Jungle, I think of Sandlot. Like there's some like, and that might just be like how much you love the movie. Yeah. But like the soundtracks of those movies play a huge impact in the movie. Sure, and like I said, that's one of my favorite parts of going to see a movie is how the soundtrack incorporates into the storytelling of the picture.
Yeah.
And and like Ped said, like Remember the Titans, or like some of those movies that you've watched repeatedly over and over and over again, some of your favorite movies, the soundtrack is gonna stick with you and bring you back to exactly what moment in the movie that song's playing.
Absolutely.
Like Fire and Rain, when that comes up, Remember the Titans, like I think of Remember the Titans and I get sad.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. And it on a larger scale, it all. And this is coming from a musician, like I truly believe everything always comes down back to the music, like the music is just something that I don't quite understand people that like don't listen to music at all or whatever, like I can't fathom that, because I feel like in any form, it could be as simple as like something like that, like music is just something that it resonates within our souls, and it's like we remember vibes and we remember times. It's kind of like a smell. Like you have a certain smell or a certain taste, and it just reminds you of just whether it's your childhood or good memories, bad memories, whatever. And I just love the power of music, and it just brings us back together, and that's music and sports. So comment below, maybe shout out to Ped for commenting Remember the Titans. Comment maybe some of your favorite movies that have some of your favorite songs, or songs that you found from your favorite movies, whatever. Hit us with the comments. We're interested in hearing what you got to say about it. Have you ever seen anything new recently? Any new movies or TV shows outside of what we've discussed?
Going in back to Star Wars, I recently started watching Star Wars Rebels.
Okay.
Are you familiar?
I'm familiar, but I haven't seen it.
Star Wars Rebels is a Disney XD show. So there are moments where I have to remind myself that like Clone Wars was great, but Clone Wars does a good job of like teetering between like a kid's show and like an actual like part of the Star Wars universe. You know what I mean? Where like Rebels like has moments where it's like there's a problem, and then they solve the problem at the end of the episode, right? Because like if you watch Clone Wars, I don't remember if we. Clone Wars, like they'll take sometimes.
You know what? I've seen bits and pieces because it used to be on Cartoon Network.
Yeah, exactly. So they'll do like sometimes like 3 or 4 episode arcs where like they go over they do like a whole storyline in like 3 or 4 episodes. Whereas like Rebels usually is like, it's like it just fits like the perfect format of like conflict. There's a peak and then there's a resolution, like like the typical format of like storytelling. Is that like because it's a kid show, but then again there are some great moments that remind you that it is Star Wars and technically it is canon. So there's a lot of cool scenes and stuff in there. Like I just saw like Ahsoka just showed up, and like in the part that I'm at, like Ahsoka shows up and she's an older Ahsoka compared to what you see in Clone Wars, and that's really cool. And there are other scenes that I've heard about in Rebels that I'm listening up to, and like Vader shows up. So like of course whenever Vader shows up, like it's real deal. So that's one thing that I've been watching recently. And going back to soundtracks, what's unique about Star Wars is that they have to like create their own sounds, and like sometimes the sounds and the music they make, shouts out to John Williams, one of the greatest composers of modern music history,
for sure.
Modern film history, I should say. Is able to create like that, the dun 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 dun, like that's so iconic. The dun 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 dun, even more iconic. So like the ability that music has on storytelling is so impactful, and I think Star Wars is a prime example of how that.
Goodness.
And like the Mandalorian theme song is a banger. Like shout out Ludwig Göransson.
I've just started tapping in. I think I'm in episode 4, 5. No, 5. I just started Mandalorian, bro. I just started.
You better text me, man. Honestly, if you start texting me about it, might have to go back and start watching.
I bet I definitely will.
So let me know when something crazy happens. I'm trying to remember what happens, but so good. But that the Mandalorian theme, like the impact that the music has on the storytelling is just so awesome.
For
And
sure.
and Star Wars does a phenomenal job of doing that as always.
And that's going back to underwhelming with Kenobi. That's one thing that I can say I feel is a little underwhelming about Kenobi is I feel like the music isn't up to par. I was kind of expecting more of a Revenge of the Sith, Duel of the Fates kind of vibe.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the theme song.
Yeah. I don't even know what the theme song is. I can't even lie to you, bro. It's like no with the sand.
You hear it at the end, and
it's
so like it's not like the Mandalorian theme. Like that was just a perfect I'm gonna I'm gonna have to listen to it when I go home. Like it's just that good.
I was listening to the Revenge of the Sith score last night, man.
I mean, Duel of the Fates. Like,
yeah, that's a classic.
Shun dun.
That's
dun,
one
dun,
of the
dun dun shun dun.
That's one of the only CDs that I have.
Shun dun 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 shun dun dun shun dun dun.
Yeah,
banger.
Absolutely.
Absolute banger.
Shout out John Williams.
Shouts out John Williams. Have you watched anything recently? So Rebels also is like, I'm trying to think of where exactly is on the timeline. According to Disney Plus, if I remember correctly, it's after the events of Kenobi, but it's before Rogue One. Because it's definitely like, it's basically like the start of the rebellion kind of forming.
Right.
It's like what it's kind of hinting at.
Yeah.
So like at least I'm pretty sure. So it's like at least a dozen years after Order 66.
Okay.
I believe.
Okay.
And that's what I've been starting to watching because I've heard I've heard a lot of good things about that. And one last thing is The Boys season 3. Released 3 episodes last Friday, which is a kind of darker take on superheroes. And it's like if superheroes were like in actual real life, because like it talks about like they're owned by a company and how they're kind of leased out by this company and their sponsorship and like all these kind of things that like other like your DCs and your Marvels don't necessarily talk about because there's so much like secret identity behind it.
Sure.
Whereas this is just like, yeah, that's Homelander or that's Starlight. Like these are people. They're from this area and like they're sponsored by this and they're owned by their rights are owned by like this company. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So season 3 just started. If you haven't watched that, if you're a superhero fan and you're looking for like a different take besides like what Marvel and DC do, I highly recommend The Boys. Season 3 released 3 episodes last Friday. They'll release another one tomorrow. So those are 2 things that I've been watching recently.
One thing I saw was I saw the new Miss Marvel.
Okay.
Episode 1 come out.
How I haven't watched that yet. How
it was good. It was a definitely a introduction episode for sure. But I like that they pretty much got right to it, and I thought the cinematography and the effects were pretty cool, and it's basically just her starting out like giving her perspective. She's kind of a loner, and she's Indian, so she's got the whole dynamic of like trying to find herself as a young Indian American woman. I think she's like 16, so she's a teenager. But battling with the older ideologies of her parents, and the normal cultural aspects, and she's with it, but she's trying to be herself at the same time. So it's a relatable story if you're a minority.
Yeah. I might have to watch that when I get home. I definitely want to watch that because I know that's going to tie into the Marvels, the movie that comes out, Captain Marvel 2, a.k.a. been rebranded.
Sure. Yeah.
Because it's going to feature her, it's going to feature Captain Marvel and Monica Rambeau from WandaVision.
Yeah.
I forget what her superhero name is in the comic books, but it'll involve all 3 of them. So it'll definitely be a series that you need to watch. And it's not one of those that I'm like jumping out to watch at. Like it's definitely a superhero that I'm like not super familiar with. The only familiarity I've gotten with Miss Marvel was from the Avengers video game that came out a year or 2 ago, I think, because she's like one of the main people that you actually play as.
True.
in the main storyline. I kind of fell off that because the gameplay was kind of iffy there, and the storyline kind of jumped all over the place a little bit, so I never finished it. But that's like the only so I am gonna watch that. I am looking forward to it, watching it whenever it does, because I know. They're setting themselves up for the future, so you kind of have to watch the Marvel shows in order to be kind of in tune with what's going on in the universe.
Oh, for sure.
So I'm definitely going to watch that when I get the time, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely, man. You got any other thoughts, topics that you want to bring up?
None that I can think of. I think we did a great job of kind of hitting a lot of different bases today.
Absolutely.
Here's some of the thing about... No, okay. I was just gonna say like what we've already said. Some of like our most like soundtracks or songs in movies that like kind of stand out to us. There are tons out there, but and we've already said a few. But I'm just trying to think. I think leave that with the listeners. Kind of let us know what. Like Pat already gave us an example of the soundtrack for Remember the Titans. Like I said, the Guardians and Forrest Gump are the 2 first ones that I think of when I think of importance of soundtracks in movies. But let us know what kind of songs you hear in movies or what they kind of remind you of. I would be curious to see what our listeners think about when they hear a song and they immediately brings them back to a movie or or it brings them to a show or a scene in a show. I'd just be curious to what our viewers have to say on that, because I definitely think everyone has their own like song in a movie or song in a show that kind of brings them to that moment of that show or whatever.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. You're spot on, man. I totally agree. I'll come prepared next week with maybe a few more songs or movies that that resonate with me, but definitely will leave it to the peoples. Just to kind of circle back on just realistic situations going on in the world right now, or at least within our country. We've got the whole January 6th committee. And I'm just more so bringing things up just to promote awareness just for the individual in terms of being aware of the current events that's going on, and just not to get lackadaisical, because I'd like to say I'm proud of the growth that we've had over here on Northside Plugged since we've started. And we don't try to get we don't want to get too political or too deep into things, but at the same time I like that we can hit it when it needs to be hit, because it's important. And I think not talking about these things is a misuse of a platform like this. So yeah, we've got the whole January 6th committee coming, trying to state their case, I think, to the House or whatever right now, whoever. At the end of the day, being realistic, you've got a lot of people that are just, even after the whole January 6th thing, the days after, people talking about, oh, we have to be bipartisan and this shouldn't happen and this is bad and blah, blah, blah. And, now you've got a lot of people disputing it, and undermining it, and saying, even people in baseball saying it's just a, quick dust up or something like that. I heard from somebody.
That was Jack Del Rio,
the
defensive coordinator for the Washington Commanders, said it was a dust up.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, I just want to drive the point of how important it is to, think freely for yourself and make conscious decisions and just be a positive contributing member to society, because as we've seen throughout all of the history of our country, but even within the past couple of years, it gets crazy real quick. And just because, there really is no downtime, every day is a mass shooting these days. And I just saw, in terms of Nigeria, it's now at 80 people that have passed away. So just a reminder, be a good person out there. Take care of your peoples. Check up on the news on credible sources. Don't feed in. Sorry, bro. I keep hitting you.
No, you're fine.
Stop feeding into the big lies of whatever lies are going on, and so stop allowing social media and the internet to skew your perceptions. Create your own perceptions, and I hope that they're logical and practical for society.
Absolutely. Well said. Well said.
So that's all I have to say.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to kind of end the show there. Thank you all for tuning in. We appreciate you all. Thank you to our caller. Shouts out to him for asking great questions to continue on with our conversation that we were having. We appreciate you all for tuning in. We'll be back next week for potentially Game 6. Most likely Game 6.
Knock on the hardwood.
Most likely Game 6 is going to be going on while we're here, so we'll definitely having another little watch party while we get hopefully a guest in here to watch it with us, which will be fun and exciting for them too.
We do have a guest next week, actually.
Oh, heck yeah.
It is a new guest.
Ooh,
yeah, so
cool.
We'll bring them in there.
So God bless them for dealing with us on a potential Game 6, potential clinching game for whatever team is in that scenario.
Absolutely.
It's going to be fun for them. So thank you all for tuning in. Make sure you like and subscribe. Leave us a comment. Like I said, if you're watching this later, let us know what songs, soundtracks have an impact on you. Very curious what people think, because I think there's a lot of answers out there for what people have when they think of soundtracks for movies or shows. But thank you all for tuning in. Make sure, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, like and subscribe, notifications for whenever we go live. And that's it. So for BossDan, G-Money, G-Money, got anything else left to say?
All I gotta say is shout out to everybody tuning in, sticking with us till the end, listening in general, consuming any Northside Plug content, or just being a part of the journey. keep spreading love, keep doing good, and keep that peace going on, man. That's all I can really say. So, again, for BossDan, your boy G Money G Note, we are Northside Plug over here on Q4 Radio, and we'll see y'all next week, baby.
Love you guys.
Love
Thank
y'all.
you so much.
Y'all take care.
Peace.
See ya.